Good evening. Welcome to the Monday, March 14th meeting of the City of Evanston Planning and Development Committee. We have a quorum, and so I'd like to get a motion to approve the minutes of the February 22nd meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, all in favor to approve?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Items for consideration. We have only one item tonight, two items actually, so I think we'll do citizen comment that will accompany those two items as we do those. The first items for consideration, however, is P1, Ordinance 24016, granting a special use for a parking lot and major zoning relief for a 5-foot street side yard setback for the Ryan Field West parking lot at 1501 Central Street. The Zoning Board of Appeals and City staff recommend adoption of this ordinance with conditions granting special use approval for the reconstruction and expansion of the Ryan Field West parking lot and major zoning relief for a 5-foot street side yard setback, Ashland Avenue, for open parking where 15 feet is required. This is for introduction. Is there a motion to introduce?
Move introduction.
Second.
Thank you. Let's see. We have people signed up to speak. We have also presentations regarding the parking lot from both the university and a neighbor group. I think we'd like to hear first from the university, if you're ready to present.
Evening.
Good evening.
Charles Davidson, applicant for the university and project manager for the West Ryan Field parking lot. I have with me this evening John DAngelo, Vice President of Facilities Management at Northwestern, Jody Marino, landscape architect from Teskin Associates, and Brian Wazowski from Gaywalt Hamilton. The parking lot, the West Ryan Field parking lot serves multiple use for us as a facility, football game parking, tailgating, campus parking, parking for North Shore Hospital, as well as parking lot for the City of Evanston. The parking lot's surrounded by Central Street Business District to the south. Wilmette is a neighbor of ours to the north. We have athletic facilities to the east, and we have residents to the west. Reason why we're proposing the renovation of this parking lot is the parking lot's deteriorated beyond the point where we can provide general maintenance to sustainably keep up with its needs. The site has no drainage, poor geometry, and continued service complaints. Some of the highlights of this project is a complete replacement, bringing the lot into compliance with the City of Evanston requirements, American with Disabilities Act, and the MWRD. The project will improve the right-of-way along Ashland and Isabella by providing sidewalk and landscaping, a connection to Ryan Field, which will help improve it at the midsection and improve crosswalk. Some of the facts and some of the general information regarding the parking lot. It's a 7-acre site. We have existing 884 stalls, and we're proposing 899 stalls with the project with 18 handicap spaces. We'll have installation of curb around the lot, designated pavement edges, and a barrier for vehicles, which doesn't exist today. And we'll have an overall improved circulation for traffic control on daily use and, more importantly, on game day. The project currently will provide stormwater detention and facilitate controlled runoff. Some sustainable features for this project: we'll have rain gardens in the center of the lot to promote stormwater infiltration and provide pre-treatment of water prior to entering the stormwater system. We'll have extensive landscaping around the perimeter, as well as trees and understory plantings. Some of the benefits to the City of Evanston that we have with this project, if I could, some of the benefits of the City of Evanston, on our southern border, we have a 30-foot setback along Central Street, which works with the Central Street Master Plan. Along Isabella, we have a 35-foot setback. That setback goes along with the larger corridor plan that we're developing in this area that goes with the Rocky Miller Baseball Project that'll extend from the west end of this parking lot to the east end of our athletic facility. Along Ashland Street, we'll have an improved parkway with new sidewalk along the west side and trees. And in the alley, we'll have an extensive landscaping for the extent of the border. A little bit of background and history of how we got here today. We've as a university, we've met with DAPR on 2 occasions. We've met with the ZBA. We had a town hall meeting at our facility, hosting our neighbors. And recently, this week, we've met with neighbors, which after we've submitted some of the plans to this group, we've met with neighbors and we've had some additional information to add to you. So some of the items that came out of those meetings is what I'd like to invite John up to talk about, and those relate to the lighting levels, landscaping and alley screening, and the connection to Livingston. So with that, I'll bring up John and talk a little bit further about some of those items.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. And I'm John DAngelo, Vice President of Facilities Management for Northwestern University. And thanks to a wonderful partnership with the neighbors and with both city planning and city code, we were able to really partner on some of the concerns of the neighbors. And one is the light levels. The original design in the package that were provided had several options. The one that had originally gone forward, I believe, had an average of 1 foot candle throughout the parking lot. Again, working well with city staff, we were able to reduce that so that on the west side of the lot, the side that is closest to the neighborhood, we're able to reduce that down to a minimum of 0.3. The city has granted us the ability to step that down during hours when the lot is not in heavy use, using dimming of the LED lights that we plan to install to a 0.1. On the east side, where we have a bigger traffic and pedestrian potential interaction, the lighting levels are appropriately slightly higher, a minimum of 0.5 foot candles. And again, the ability to step that down through dimming as permitted by the city staff. We have also been able to get permission from city code. City has an advisory, it's not in code, for a midpoint to max ratio of 6:1. Instead, we've looked at the national code, which is the IESNA RP series for parking lots, which has a min to max ratio, which allows us to have a shorter pole height, which is very important to the neighbors, and not have to dramatically increase the number of poles that we were planning on having on the site. So there'll be less opportunity for poles to be higher than the vegetation, thus having natural screening through all seasons. Moving beyond lighting, one of the things that were important to the majority of the neighbors were not using the parking lot as a cut-through into the neighborhood, especially for large athletic functions. And the neighbors had brought up the extension similar to what Charles brought up along Isabella, where we have the walkway extension. And then to protect Rocky Miller Field, we do have a very nice metal with masonry pillar fence. And Northwestern has agreed to extend that fence on the west side of the lot from Isabella all the way down to Central Street. And then finally, the university has agreed to work very closely with the city on the alleyway that extends just beyond the borders of the parking lot. And to that regard, I met with Dave Stonebeck today, and we've started those discussions on how best to deal with some of the long-standing issues with that alleyway. And Northwestern will continue to commit to helping that project, both with the design, special expertise, and if we can continue to work with the city to the eventual execution of that lot. No questions for me. I will turn it over to Charles.
There is Alderman Wilson, or do we want to wait to the university as presented and as the Wilson neighborhood?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, quick question on the alley. Implied in that, I think, was help pay for it. Was that implied?
That is absolutely
Okay,
implied.
I'm just making sure I understood that. Okay.
Yeah, there are some, so immediately after our meeting that we had with the residents, I went out and took a look at the alley. The alley, there's really not an opportunity to drain that alley naturally because of the soils in that condition. And so we will need the city's assistance in getting it tied into an appropriate storm system.
Okay.
And that requires city approval, MWRD approval. So that was the meeting that I had with the city today as well. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Is that that's your presentation at this point?
That's our presentation.
thank you.
We have additional slides, but
Okay.
we'll let city or residents speak now.
Okay, well, we'll have the, yes, we'll have the presentation by the residents, and then individual speakers could add something to that presentation following that. So I think the presentation will be given by Lori McFarland. Thank you.
Yes, it will. Hi, is that microphone acceptable? My name's Laurie McFarland. I live in the neighborhood immediately west of Ryan Field parking lot. That's a neighborhood, it's about 4 blocks square. It's sort of contained by Green Bay Road and the stadium and Isabella and Central. And I would point out that in addition to our neighborhood, there is some residential both north and south of Ryan Field in Wilmette and then along Central Street as well. I want to say that I stand here tonight so grateful for the partnership that has developed with Northwestern. And there are times in the past where I've sat in those seats and watched as developers and neighbors were able to come to agreement. And I did not ever think that I was going to be part of that. And today that has happened. Getting to this point was not quick or easy. It was a long, drawn-out process that began back in late January when the neighbors got the first notices about the first APR meeting. That was on February 3rd. Neighbors began organizing at that point in time. Our neighborhood has a neighborhood directory of emails. Emails were sent out, flyers were sent around, sometimes extending beyond our neighborhood. And we tried to make it as inclusive a process as possible to get everybody involved and working together. And as a result of that, we were able to form committees on lighting and alley and landscaping and pedestrian walkway that eventually worked and developed positions that then we took to the Northwestern. I say this to emphasize that we have always wanted to have an open conversation with everybody who was involved and have welcome points of view on that. Northwestern was very receptive when we came, especially with Alderwoman Ravel. She was of enormous help to us in getting the meetings that we needed, both with city staff and with Northwestern. We, as a result of this outreach effort, I think that I would say over 90% of the neighbors are thrilled with what is going on today. And I thank the university and I urge you all to adopt it. I would be happy to answer any questions that you all might have about process or about where the neighbors are at, if you all had anything like that.
Alderman Nguyen.
I met with one of the neighbors about 2 weeks ago, and I know one of the concerns was, and I can't quite tell on this, is there an access point across the middle of the parking lot into the alley, or is the fence or wall continuous?
The current plan, as proposed by the neighbors and agreed to by Northwestern, is that there will be a continuous fence along the west side of the lot, east side of the alley, that will divide the alley from the lot. And although many neighbors had mixed feelings about that, since many of us have cut through there over the years and enjoyed that, as we continued our process, it became clear that that was the correct solution for a number of reasons. For instance, when there are openings, that creates a problem security-wise for Northwestern. They then have to have higher light levels near the edge of the lot. They have to have lower vegetation, so the lot can't be screened as much for security reasons. It also creates a better barrier in the way that good fences make good neighbors. We very much enjoy Northwestern's presence. We think we will continue to enjoy it more if we have that continuous barrier between and fairly intensive screening. Northwestern they're a great university, and we're happy that their teams are doing well. We do anticipate continued increased use of that lot over time, and it is a much busier lot that could feel commercial in nature. So the dense plantings that have been proposed, the continuous fence, I think will really address that and make the neighbors feel that their property values it ameliorates the diminution of the property values.
I think this is a very good solution. I went through the alley, and I think that having a continuous fence is a very good thing between two very different uses.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else?
I see no other lights. Thank you very much. We have about 8 other speakers signed up. Now, if you feel that your point of view has been addressed and that you're satisfied, if you are of that 90%, as Ms. McFarland mentioned, you can speak or choose not to either. But we have quite a few. So first name on the list is Robert Melchiorri and Susan Melchiorri.
Robert Melchiorri, we live at 1619 Jenks. This property, our residence has been in our family. Our residence has been in our family for about 15 years. My wife Susan and I moved there a year and a half ago. This is a good meeting. I think in addition to paving the alley and sewers, the alley and speed bumps, it needs to be one way because the alley is being used as a cut-through from Central to Isabella. Cars are speeding. At game time, you got frantic tailgaters looking for their friends, looking for a spot to park, and they just whip through there. All right, some of the things we've lived with, in addition to that, we have buses in the lot from 6:15 in the morning until 11:30 p.m. There's a sign posted very clearly on Central next to Mustard's Last Stand, no buses, no parking, no idling. This has become a municipal bus depot. There's multiple companies in there. I had multiple discussions with Brian Peters, now retired, head of transportation, public transportation for Northwestern, and it took at least 20 phone calls before we have a little bit of remedy. The issue is it's not being monitored properly. It's only monitored when a resident calls. And the problem is the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. They don't know what bus companies are in the lot. I was asked to go out there by Brian Peters and take pictures, not only of the buses with the license plate, but the driver. So this went on for a year. The last time, actually the last 2 times, it's the same driver, and he just laughs. It's like it's no big deal. They have control of the lot. This has to stop. There's bus fumes, there's constant diesel noise, and when the bus comes in from Central Street, and I question, why does the bus have to come through the parking lot, pick up people, and then head down Ashland? The understanding is those buses are supposed to be on Ashland. They pick up their passengers there. All right? So that is like 18 hours of noise every day. All right? So in addition to the fumes, the noise, the air brakes, game days, we have people obviously drinking. It's fine. It's a game. About 11 o'clock, they start puking in the alley. We even had someone defecate in our house. So, addition to that, I call on the city of Evanston, Northwestern, and their donors to do the right things because this is a tipping point for this neighborhood.
I agree. And getting back to the alley, it's really a safety issue. I'm hoping that it will be paved with the speed bumps, especially on game day. They speed looking for a place to park. And
Yeah, it's also been difficult. We can't even keep our windows open. I mean, if you just live in a place that's all cooped up, it's nice to get a little fresh air. In addition to that, one more I'd like to mention, and I know there's a lot of other people who speak. On Sundays, the lot is being used to train new drivers how to drive. And stick shift, and we got screeching and braking, dust flying around, and it is as bad as I say it. I'm not exaggerating in one way, shape, or form. We live right on the alley, so we have stereo everything. So, thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Yuri Russell. Please tell me if I pronounced that correctly. Russell, I get. Evie, I say.
First of all, I have here a sample packet of mostly scientific peer-reviewed articles that delineate the disruption of artificial nightlight on human health and wildlife, including plants, owls, bats, and other birds. You want it? Okay, my name is Evie Rasto. I'm a resident since 1981 at 1724 Livingston Street, facing McCulloch Park. My first question, it's unclear to me where stormwater from the new parking lot will be diverted and whether the water will negatively affect Livingston or Chancellor Streets and its basements. I just heard that the water, I heard two different things from Northwestern, one in private conversation just before the meeting, that there will be a catch basin, and then right now I heard that the sentence water prior to entering sewer system. So that I would like that to be addressed. The other thing is, along with my neighbors, I'm pleased by the new proposed changes by Northwestern that change the original parking lot plan. And I was wondering about, again, something mentioned about the light minimums having been changed. I'm sort of ignorant about lights, so does minimum mean that there is a maximum also? Or is the maximum actually those figures that were proposed? Our neighborhood in the past has endured increased light, noise, and car exhaust pollution, traffic congestion, leading to increased nuisance and illegal behavior, such as crowds not using sidewalks after games, dumping refuse, public urination, illegal parking, etc. Most of the present alley vegetation will be removed. I do like the new plan because we need new plantings that adequately shield residents from light and noise pollution and absorb car exhaust and radiating pavement heat. We want a safe haven for resident owls and bats. The cover height should be dense and tall from the start. And we can't wait 10 years for trees to grow to a height significantly less than at present. Proper grading and paving the alley with tie-in to adequate sewers will likely avert erosion or sinking effects due to roots decay caused by the death of the original plants. Most residents feel that a continuous barrier of vegetation, as now proposed, and fencing along the alley is ideal. Walking a few blocks to reach the parking lot, Stadium, or Central Street is a healthy and minor inconvenience. Tailgaters will use porta potties once easy alley access is stopped. Delivery trucks would be discouraged from idling in the alley. What is the policy for game deliveries? Northwestern is the only Big Ten member without published tailgating rules. The permanent barrier would stop direct light streaming down Livingston and allow the proposed reductions in light levels, an advantage to all residents. I do commend Northwestern for addressing the present parking lot deplorable conditions. We ask that the renovation does not include changes that will impact negatively on our environment and quality of life. Please, City of Evanston, protect our neighborhood from increased light levels and ensure that we have adequate protective vegetation cover and clear separation between the parking lot and the residential neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is John Black. I didn't state it up front, but our tradition here is about 3 minutes, so I'll give you about a 30-second warning.
Oh, no problem. My name's John Black. I live at 2651 Eastwood. I've lived in Evanston since 1972. We moved to our present house almost 5 years ago. I think Northwestern should really be commended and applauded for what I would call remarkable show of partnership on this project. I actually had a few slides that I put together earlier that I'm not walking through now because I spoke with Charles and John, I think, earlier, and they've addressed some of my concerns. There is one remaining concern I have, and it relates to stormwater management. And there's two very large water vaults. Well, there's a big one and a smaller one that are going to be collecting stormwater. And the big vault is going to be diverted to the storm system. The smaller vault will have a permeable bottom, and the water will go down into the ground. Now, this ground in the parking lot, it's terrible. It's clay. It's not permeable. And I think the engineers would prefer to divert that water into the storm system. And apparently, the reclamation district folks say that we've got a new regulation that says you have to have permeable water vaults. I spoke with a city engineer earlier today talking about this project. I've spoken with her a couple times just to get some background on how this works and what best practices are and things like that. And she told me that there is that reclamation district rule about having the permeable bottom to these tanks, but she seemed to think that there was still room to work with the reclamation folks and get a waiver on this. And I spoke to the gentleman here before the meeting, and they said, oh, can't do it, state law, can't do anything about it. We'd like to do it too, but we can't. What I would like is for Northwestern, to give it that old college try and to push this through, because I'm talking to a city engineer who knows her stuff, and she's telling me that this can probably be done, and I think that effort should be made. Other than that, like I said, I applaud the great partnering with Northwestern. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jeff Smith.
Thank you. Jeff Smith on behalf of the Central Street Neighbors Association. As you may know, the Central Street Neighbors Association participated extensively in the visioning and development of the Central Street Master Plan adopted by this city. Key to that process and vision was recognition of the significant impact that new projects or changes in use, design, or intensity can have on adjacent residential neighborhoods and the quality of life of those neighborhoods' residents, as well as the recognition that such residents often have detailed knowledge of ground-level factors that are not apparent from the perspective of high-level decision makers or planners. So the plan anticipated and was expected to guide future development in a way that would help maintain the unique character of the neighborhood and simultaneously promote its attractiveness and livability. We saw some beautiful renderings of what might happen at this very site in some of the early iterations of that plan. One hope is that controversies would be avoided in the future, both by adherence to the plan and by project proponents meeting early with neighborhood residents to hear and discuss concerns, preferably while such a project was in the formative stages. Central Street Neighbors is sensitive to and supportive of the concerns of the neighbors who have met with Northwestern City staff and Alderman Revelle with respect to the proposed changes to this parking lot, and we congratulate Northwestern on its sensitivity as well. We support, in particular, the reduction of parking lot lighting intensity and hours to the minimum necessary, the use of light coloration that does not simulate daylight in the nighttime, and we urge that the project not result in increased light shining horizontally into the yards and homes of residents adjacent to and near the parking lot. So consider some hooding or shielding on those the tops of those light fixtures as well. Central Street Neighbors also urges the quick replacement of greenery removed from the west side of the lot with trees and screening that are sufficiently tall and mature to provide privacy, security, and ecology, and the use of fencing to prevent spillover of parking lot activities into residential yards. And we applaud Northwestern's use of berms and swales and landscaping both as buffer for the neighborhood and to capture stormwater runoff. We encourage the creative use of sustainable drainage mechanisms to reduce runoff and strain on the storm sewer system, not count against Evanston's Lake Michigan water allocation, and for any future improvement of the alley west of the lot. We support the process or dialogue that's occurred to date, but also the request of residents that the City of Evanston ensure, by conditions on the permit if necessary, that the representations and agreements that have been made in these meetings and in these presentations are implemented. And we urge the city as a matter of policy to suggest to future project proponents the utility and wisdom of early and transparent communications with residents and stakeholder groups likely to be impacted. Central Street Neighbors, as in the past, is willing to facilitate such meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Joan Adler, or Andler. Thank you.
This is going to be extremely brief since most of the speakers have already covered all of my topics. I live at 2657 Eastwood, which is the corner of Eastwood and Livingston, and the place at the midway point where Northwestern was proposing the walkway all the way through. I've lived there for 30 years, so I have experienced a lot of the traffic and what goes on with Northwestern. I am extremely happy with the partnership that Northwestern has put together to try to eliminate that walkway through. To put a fence up there from Isabella to Central Street is going to be an extreme relief to me on my property values specifically. With everything that we have gone through, we have tried to be very good neighbors with Northwestern and tried to accommodate with them what happens during football games and every other activity that they have going on. So the fence activity or the fence idea is extremely welcome. In addition to the fact that the lights that are currently there at Northwestern continue to shine through my bedroom windows because I am right on the alley there. And the fact that they are willing to lower those light levels is a wonderful thing as well. So I am very thrilled that we have been able to work with Northwestern in partnership and make a good compromise. So I just wanted to say that that is so important to us in the neighborhood. So thank you.
Thank you. Amira Rosinski, followed by, I'm sorry. Great. Lawrence Byrne.
Hello, my name is Lawrence Byrne. I live on Livingston, about a half block west of the stadium. I'll be very brief. I really just want to give as many kudos as I can to our new Alderman Revelle. She really stepped up to the plate and brought partnership. And my thanks to Northwestern, John DAngelo and Alan Anderson really came together in a spirit of partnership once they understood our concerns and the depth of our concerns. So we really owe them a thanks as well. And I support all of the things that have been mentioned and the new conditions on the plan. And I would echo Mr. Smith that we just need to make sure those are in the code and the citation that the council issues. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And that is the end of our citizen comment regarding this item. We'd like to discuss among council committee members. I think Alderman Rainey first.
Well, this might be a historical occasion, and I hope it's written down in history and noted. I've never seen so many happy neighbors in this room in my life. However, I want to be happy too about this, and so I would like a little more information about the alley paving process here. I heard that Northwestern is going to commit to $800,000 for the alley. What I really want to know is, where's this partnership? Is this going to be a special assessment on the homeowners that are abutting the alley? How is this going to work?
Thank you, Alderman. Again, it's John DAngelo, Vice President, Facilities Management for Northwestern. I'd be happy to answer your question. The answer is right now, I don't know. We're just starting those discussions with the city. There's a lot of permitting that has to go in and some design that has to be done. There is a commitment on my part personally, as for those who don't know me, I'm a 20-year United States Naval officer. I don't give my commitment unless I fully follow through on it. And as a corporate officer of Northwestern University, my commitment on the record does commit the university to working that through. So we have to figure out exactly what needs to be done on the site, and then we'll get the estimate. And we're going to continue to value the partnership of both our community and of the city. But we had those first discussions with the city today, and so I don't know that full answer yet.
Okay. Well, is Dave Stone back here? I'd like to get some information from him.
Alderman Rainey, I think I could answer the process question.
Well, I know the normal process. I'm concerned about this because it's my understanding that the neighbors have no intention of committing to paying for their share.
Right.
So
So my understanding is that it'll still go through the Board of Local Improvements to review the plans. Dave Stonebeck sits on that board, Marty Lyons. Even if it's going to be paid for by Northwestern, it'll still go through that process.
So will Northwestern pay the share of the neighbors? And, I mean, I've got alleys right now in my ward that cannot be paved because people on both sides of the alley cannot commit.
We've had that experience over the past year as well. We applied under the city's 50/50 for several alleys that abut Northwestern property, and to make those alleys move forward, Northwestern's had to shoulder the burden. And that's their commitment to their neighbors here. So as principal owners along this alleyway, our intent is to not have to have a special assessment under the city's program, but it is way early, Alderman, for me to be able to tell you exactly what that means until we get through the design.
This would definitely come back here before the Board of Local Improvement process starts. I'd like this to come back, the alley issue to come back here, so that we hear, probably to Administration Public Works, to hear how this is going to proceed.
I agree. I think it's very critical, but I'm happy to hear that it's moving forward with your
love
commitment.
that there's nothing like paving an alley, but a warning to the resident who came up and said one of the problems is they have speeding cars and they really want, one way. There's nothing that causes speeding in an alley more than having it one way and paved. It's not a problem. Speed bumps are not a speed down the alley. It's just crazy. The best thing for slowing down traffic in an alley is not to pave it. But I understand. I mean, there's nothing more beautiful than a paved alley. I wish we had all paved alleys. But I am very concerned about the financial commitment on part of the city regarding this alley, since there are neighbors and Northwestern. So I just wanted to come back so we can talk about it.
Understood. My apologies that I'm not able at
No,
this
of
early
course you
time to
can't.
fully
Yeah.
answer
All
your
right.
question.
I just want to make sure it comes back. Thank you.
Yes.
Alderman Fisk?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question for you, John. I've looked and I don't see an image of the light fixtures you're going to use. I'm assuming they're dark sky.
They're LED, yes. So they
Okay.
have 100% cutoff. They're lensed cutoff, so you don't even need the baffles, which can fail over time.
Okay.
So these are 100% lens. They are have a very high bug rating, which means that they don't have light pollution in the up direction, the U on bug.
Right.
In fact, these are, and I believe we've selected GE. These are really becoming the DOE standard for some of the best. That's what just rolled out in the city of Los Angeles through the entire city as well.
I was just a little confused by what Jeff Smith was saying, and I think
The old style lights, you had to have mechanical cutoffs because, and over time, those mechanical cutoffs rust or get bent and they fail. And
Right.
then what goes in as a wonderful light over time creates light pollution. These are actually small chip packages, and the chips are not 360. They're only focused down, and so it's a much better solution. And as Jeff said, these are incredibly more sustainable.
Great, thank you.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes, I have a question also for.
I almost got away.
The comment that was made by the neighbors about the idling buses, we do have an anti-idle ordinance in Evanston that prohibits trucks, delivery trucks and buses from idling for more than
3. I think it's 3.
3 minutes. Well, anyway, I think it's 5, whatever it is. But this has been a concern in my ward because we have several grocery store parking lots across the alley from residential. So it is a nuisance, both from pollution, air pollution, and the sound. So is there something that we can hear from Northwestern about methods that you are going to employ to stop the engines? I mean, the engines don't need to run. Yeah.
Sure, and I can't fully answer your question because that program doesn't fall under me, but I am familiar enough to give a general answer. The old leader in charge of transportation, whose name was mentioned, has retired, and it now falls as a program underneath our chief of police. And he is bringing a lot of leadership to that program, and it has dramatically improved both in on-time performance on the buses, as well as enforcing Northwestern and City of Evanston policies. For this parking lot, one of the improvements along Ashland is to have small bus turnoff and pickup lanes, which we're hopeful, and in partnership with Chief Lewis, we should be able to not have the buses turn all the way into the lot, but to use those bus lanes, which currently don't exist along the parking lot. So those are our hopes. Alan has also taken that note down, and he can get a more formal answer back if I failed to satisfy your question.
Okay. I'd like to hear a little bit more about what you're going to do. Okay, thanks.
Should I try and escape? Or?
I have one question, actually, Ruth. I don't know that you can answer it either, but as far as getting more information about the water retention tanks, I'm a firm believer in trying to get as much water into the ground as possible, and not, backing up the sewers causes immense problems with our residents. Yes. So I'd like to know if the water tanks are deep enough, you would be beyond that clay membrane that, kind of is really pretty common in the entire area all the way to Crawford Street. So I'm just wondering if this is an issue or if this can be resolved by technology.
Oh, no, it can easily be resolved. In fact, the design resolves it to my satisfaction as a professional engineer. Furthermore, Northwestern has committed on behalf of the White House, who called just before the Paris climate change talks, to doing just that, to trying to put groundwater back into the ground. And so we have a 7-acre parking lot that is going to have a stone base course throughout, and that stone base course is meant to allow the water to travel throughout that 7 acres. 7 acres is a lot of water retainage. It gives the water plenty of time, and so clay does perk, it's just very slow. Having the smaller of the tanks as an open bottom tank allows any natural hydraulic pressure to move down and throughout that lot. The clay barriers, as you get off property, the vertical barriers, water will always flow downhill, and in the easiest path possible means that 7 acres of crushed gravel that serves as the base course really serves as a wonderful way to allow that water to move until it can eventually perk back down into the clay. Did I answer your question, sir?
Yes, thank you. I'm actually interested in pursuing this even further as far as our own municipal use, but there has to, we have the deep tunnel, at least in my ward, the 6th ward further west, is not, it's obsolete almost, except in, typical rains. But so getting water back in the ground is certainly a huge priority.
With other Northwestern projects, we've been doing the same and had great success, and we're reducing the amount of storm runoff that goes into the lake as well as into the sewer system coming off the university.
And getting it into the lake, too, is important. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Questions for residents over university? It's been moved and seconded. This is for introduction at council. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It is unanimous. Items for discussion at PD1, North Downtown Area Plan. At the February 22nd, 2016 Planning and Development Committee meeting, the committee members identified a potential need for a downtown area neighborhood plan and directed staff to investigate a planning process. Staff is proposing that the discussion begin at a special April 18, 2016 P&D meeting, and that staff will provide a summary of its initial research and the next steps for a North Downtown Area Plan. This is for discussion. Any comments? Or I think it's a good idea.
Good idea. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, good evening. We'll go ahead then. We don't anticipate at this point having to have a city council meeting on that third Monday, so it would just be a special meeting of the Planning and Development Committee.
Okay, good.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other communications, Mr. Munzer?
No, there are not. That's it.
Excellent. Move adjournment.
Second.
Thank you.